I understand that you've uncovered some information that would be beneficial for realtors. How can I help?
On the overall scheme of things, on the 30,000 square foot view type situation, what we have uncovered is fraud on a mass scale because the central appraisal districts are not adhering to USPAP. And in fact, the central appraisal districts are not adhering to any appraisal law under any circumstance. They have completely ignored it, and they, by virtue of ignoring the laws, have created a system that is designed to create fraud. They are committing fraud on a mass scale against the public.
Is that in valuation? Valuation that's not quite kosher?
That is in valuations because they ignore USPAP, which is Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice. And when they choose to ignore comparisons that are legitimate comparisons as required under USPAP, the net result is that they deem what the value is. It has nothing to do with what the value actually is. And that goes into commercial properties as well as single-family properties.
And do you see this, it's an industry-wide issue?
This is international.
International.
We now have at least one signature from 47 different states.
How is that affecting the real estate community and our clients?
Well, it affects the real estate community because realtors are mom and pop. Your clients are mom and pop. The people whose values are where the property values are being increased and their money stolen through the overtaxation and overvaluation are mom and pop. There's no difference. The only problem is for the realtors is that if you know that a client can't afford a house and that client insists, I want to buy this house and I will get into a bidding war, the realtor has a problem because your own documents don't cover off that issue. And what could happen, that person could end up turning around and suing the realtor. Now the realtors are being duped into this. It's not necessarily the fault of the realtors. So what happens is the realtors go to a CAD, they look up the value, well that's the value. Except that it's not the value. It's a fraudulent value.
So it's market value versus assessed value, and the assessed value is not adhering to the current laws for CPAP?
For everything. The assessed value is determined based on the market value. The market value is based on whatever they want it to be because they're not adhering to USPAP, and we've got mountains of evidence to back all that up. But yeah, the reality is when a realtor or anybody goes to a CAD and looks up a property value, that is not the value. That
Correct.
is the assessed deemed value under a fraudulent system created completely ignoring USPAP, Texas Property Tax Code, Texas Constitution, and the Constitution of the United States of America. The receipts, the tax receipts come into the tax assessor collector, and then they get doled out to the taxing entities. The CADs are owned by taxing entities. Who are the taxing entities, which is where I think you're going?
Right.
That's the school districts, that's the cities, could be a hospital district, just depends what's happening. But those are the taxing entities. Those taxing entities then take the receipts and they lever them up 20 to 1, typically, in the form of bonds. So what in essence is happening, and the reason why these values are completely fraudulent, is because they take the fraudulent values, bump up the tax receipts to cover off the frauds that have been created by the taxing entities in the form of the bonds. These bonds can't be paid back. So by example, again, not that I'm picking on Louisville Independent School District, but we did an analysis on the bonds at LISD. We couldn't find a single bond out of a spaghetti bowl of all sorts of different types of bonds. We couldn't find a single bond that had been retired in the last 3 years. So what they're doing is they roll up the bond, the principal, they roll out the timeline on the interest. So they themselves have created what's called a cumulative compound effect. That combination, if you think about it, 3 years ago they were able to borrow money at 2.78. Right now today their cost is 7.78, 8.5, just depending what the bond is. Okay, congratulations, that's a 400% increase. You people were so stupid that you didn't take the advantage of the receipts and pay down the bonds. Now you've doubled up, because remember, the rule of 72 says that the debt loads will increase every 7 years, hovering around a 10% mark. Well, you got these gyrations, okay? You went from 2.7, 400% increase to 8. You see the problem? There's no math on this planet that will allow those bonds to be paid back, but for theft via overvaluation and overtaxation on the taxes charged to people's houses.
And what would you suggest we do, or what do you suggest we approach clients with? Is there?
The realtors have to be very careful. I was back in Canada a realtor as a commercial broker, so I understand full well what's happening. But the realtors have to be informed that this is affecting them and it is affecting their clients. And that combination, as I was saying, is that when you're in a negotiation, there has to be a win-win. Not you, the realtor. The seller has to win and the buyer has to win.
Correct.
But if you, the realtor, inadvertently set up that buyer for a bankruptcy because you entered into a bidding war and that buyer didn't sign off on the fact, I'm going to buy this come hell or high water, and put it in writing, you, the realtor, have a problem. In a commercial transaction, you have both sides have to win or there isn't going to be a transaction.
Right.
The commission is not even relevant to the equation.
Correct.
The problem here is that realtors are mom and pop. Not all mom and pops. There's 144 million property owners, residential single-family homeowners in the United States. Not all mom and pops know what's going on here. Most realtors don't know what's going on. The problem is they're being induced into thinking the system is okay, when in fact, the system is a straight-up fraud. The system is a criminal conspiracy to defraud the public. So the goal is, if you educate the realtors, you educate mom and pop. They can go further educate more mom and pops so that you can stand in front of these ARB members and say, no, these are the legitimate comparisons. These are in my subdivision. The roof is the same. The elevation is the same. The bricks are the same. The driveway is the same. These are true comparisons. You cannot compare me to a property that's 35 miles away.
Right.
Screw you. That's the advantage of having the power in the hands of the people. But the reality is, there's 10 pages of documents here that these laws are all broken. There's 10 pages of this. This cannot happen but for criminal intent. Therefore, the system, there's only one solution. You must eliminate property taxes and you must return the ability of mom and pop to own their asset till the day they die. You do not have the right to take their asset from them, claiming, well, this is the real estate tax, and if you don't pay me, I'm going to take your house. You don't have that right. It's called RICO.
Right. I understand RICO from The Godfather.
Well, in essence, that is what they have set up. The government has, in fact, become the mob.
What's the future going to look like for homeowners if nothing changes?
They will go bankrupt. Right now, today, 37% of the households, and households are defined as multifamily tenants and single-family property owners. 37% in Denton County right now today are either going to go bankrupt or they're going to lose the roof over their head. We've got the stats and the numbers to back it up. There's a document that we have, it's called the Home Affordability. And just yesterday, we took, my accountant, Leslie, she did a great job, and it's difficult. But she actually figured out how to break it down into Johnson County. So not only do we have Denton County, today we're working on Tarrant County. The delta between what is affordable versus what is being charged is over 40%, meaning the homes are 40% overvalued, meaning the property owners are being forced to pay 40% more in property taxes than can be justified under any definition in law.
And if property taxes are affected, are lowered, where do you see the additional income?
I think I know where you're going. So the answer is property taxes need to be eliminated in favor of a sales tax.
That's where I was going.
Why? Because property taxes, as what they have done now, they've made it something that should be objective. When that 2x4 goes up 10 cents, 13 cents, whatever, so be it. It's quantifiable. There's no discussion. It is what it is. That's the value of that item. You can get there through a sales tax. Nobody's saying that taxes don't have to be paid. What I'm saying is that mom and pop have every right to own the land under their feet. They're paying for it, and the idea that some entity who's clearly violating every single appraisal law ever written without exaggeration, they don't have the right to say, I'm going to charge you a tax, and if you don't pay it, I'm going to take your house.
Understandable. Can you give 2 action items every homeowner should do?
Knowledge is power. And the whole purpose of us doing all these videos and hammering as hard as we are nonstop to get this stuff out is to provide that knowledge for mom and pop. Their ability to understand what's happening to them, because there are people, we receive emails on a daily basis, and I'm telling you, there are people who are truly, truly desperate. They're at their wits' end. They don't understand what's happening to them, and those are the people that on the first priority need the most amount of assistance because of the devastation that's happening in their lives. So we want to educate them and say, this is what's happening, this is why it's happening, and here we can help you with regard to how to process this with your central appraisal districts. One thing. The other thing is, go find somebody in your neighborhood who understand what's happening. You get 4 or 5 people together, there's now more power there that you can turn around and sue the individuals at these CADs who are doing this. And therefore, when that happens, those CADs can be broken literally without the input of the states. There's more than one way to skin a cat. That's one of them. The states need to get involved and simply say, that's it, no more real estate tax. But you have to force the hand of the state legislatures to accomplish that. And I will tell you that I've met with a legislator a few days ago. I know that there's some things in the works. They're horrified. And as you can tell through this conversation, this is extremely deep. It's twisted, it's sick, it's perverted. The amount of levels of corruption that this thing touches is simply off the charts. And it goes all the way into the state comptroller's office here in Texas. This problem is an international problem because you can literally take our documents, substitute the names that are on here for the names in your community, and you've got the exact same fraud. And we know this because we've got Johnson County, Tarrant County, Brazoria County, Travis County. There's people coming out of the woodwork. I get 60, 70 properties a day rolling through my desk. Right now, I'm probably getting 30 to 40 emails coming in off of these videos, people saying, I'm desperate. We had one from Ohio. The guy was 84 years old, a vet, bought his house for $24,000, and this year is being forced to pay $3,100. He's on fixed income. How in the hell is that going to happen? And the answer is it isn't.
It's not, right? Now, he's open to losing his home because of that situation.
It's a huge problem because if you're on fixed income and you want to stay in your home, basically what they're saying is, well, sell your house, get it on the market, put the money in your pocket, and then go push your money down the drain in an old folks' home that you don't need.
Right.
I mean, this is sick.
So are we looking at, amongst other avenues, we're looking at a class action lawsuit here?
That would be wonderful. The fact of the matter is the judges in the state of Texas, as I've been lectured by my attorney on multiple occasions, don't particularly like class actions because what they say is the damages have to be like kind. And that becomes a real problem in that you can have a person with a $200,000 home or a person with a $2 million home, and the judges will say, well, that's not like kind. I respectfully will disagree with full throat because it's not true, because they're all in the same bucket. Mom and pop is mom and pop. I don't care if you're a millionaire, because here's what deflates a millionaire real quick. You can own $1 million home, but if your wife or your husband loses a job, you can't afford that home.
Absolutely.
That deflates you almost instantly. So they're all hooked at the hip. This is a problem that literally affects every single taxpayer in the United States, bar none. The other thing is, and why does it affect? So the guy says, I'm a billionaire, I'm no problem. Oh, really? Watch this. Mr. Billionaire, you got 500 employees. What are you going to do when 30,000 houses in Denton County hit the market at the same time? You think you're not going to be affected? You're delusional. And therein lies the problem. This system is going to come undone under its own weight. Never mind what we're doing. The goal here is to stop that system from coming undone. Better to be in front of the market than to let the market roll over you.
Well, that's quite interesting, something I didn't know anything about, and I appreciate your expertise in getting involved in something that could virtually help all of us.
It does. It touches every single person. They just don't know it.
Just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
So are you, with this video, able to spread the word a little quicker?
That's the goal. The goal is to ask everybody to please, no matter how, no matter where, push this into social media, push this on everybody's channel. Travis Spencer, you guys, you'll push it out. Travis Spencer, there's no links. Nobody's making any money here. Travis Spencer literally saying, you want my video? Just give us a credit at the bottom and say where it came from. That's it. You can take any one of these videos that we've produced, cut them any way you want. We don't care. Pick out what you want to use for your own people. No problem. Just get it out there, because there's 144 million single-family homeowners that have every right to know what's happening in their lives. Over and above that, all the multifamily people, you have to realize inside of your rent, you're paying real estate tax.
Sure.
It touches your life. All the commercial property owners, your tenants, your shopping centers that are now 30% empty, why the hell do you think they're empty? Because they couldn't afford the real estate tax. Mom and pop can't pay more than 18 bucks a foot in triple net rents. It's a magic number. I knew that 30 years ago. So you see, the math is the math, and they can't get away from the math. It's just a question of educating people to say, this is what is happening in your life. And then it gets even more perverse and even more sick when you realize that they take the mortgages and slice the mortgages 1,000 different ways, right? But do you understand that even on that statement, the mortgage holders and the bond holders, they can't get access to the asset under the hood? That's how sick this is. What you see going on Wall Street with the mortgages, they can't get to the guarantor. They can't get to the underlying asset. They took a house, sliced the house's mortgage up 1,000 ways, repackaged it, called mortgage-backed securities, sold it off. Well, who are the buyers of the mortgage-backed securities? The pension funds. Who are the pension funds? Mom and pop.
Right. Yeah, it all comes down to the dollars.
Yes, comes down to the dollar, and they're raising this money to cover off the fraud that they've induced, and that's the problem with the realtors. The realtors are part and parcel of this, but in reality, they've been induced just like mom and pop. Oh, everything's fine. When you look at mainstream media, everything's fine. Yet go and look at your own numbers. Look at how many houses are on the market that have been sitting on the houses for how many days. You'll be horrified. That's the tip of the iceberg. Quadruple it. And that quadrupling will happen within the next 12 months. We know this because we're studying the math. We got 37% of the household population in Denton County alone can't afford the roof over their head today. It's not going away.
It's a shame.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to
Thank you.
become more educated, because that's what it's all about, is education. We can't do anything about ethics. That's too long-term. We have to look at what we can do now.
Yes. And best to be in front of the market before it gets in front of you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's bring this to a close. Let this guy get out there and slay him.
Pleasure.
Very, very nice to meet with you. Thanks for the questions. It's good.